as like a very like present dad, like with his children. So
hey guys, welcome back. Wow, what an episode we just witnessed. I had to literally sit for a few minutes before pressing record because my heart was racing, my mind was spinning, and my emotions were already on edge. This wasn't just another Sister Wives episode filled with drama and family tension. No, tonight was about grief, about tragedy, about a loss that none of us were prepared to face. From the very beginning, it felt different. I actually wasn't even sure the show would handle this at all. I honestly thought maybe TLC would skim over it, avoid it, or present it in some distant, clinical way. But instead, they went there, and they did it with a kind of respect that you don't usually see in reality television. And because they went there, we had to go there too, together. And I'm so glad we're doing this as a group because honestly, I don't think I could get through it alone. Even sitting here now, I feel this heaviness in my chest because what we watched wasn't scripted drama or exaggerated conflict. It was the painful retelling of the moment the Brown family, and all of us as viewers, lost Garrison. Even fans in the live chat said it best. Becky wrote, "This is breaking my heart. I can't even be snarky tonight." And that's exactly the truth. Tonight wasn't about sarcasm or laughs or even commentary. It was about grief. Real grief. Before I even get into the details of the episode, let's be honest with each other. Did anyone else have to mentally brace themselves to even press play tonight? Because I know I did. I kept thinking, this isn't just a show. This is a tragedy we are about to relive. It's the kind of thing that shakes you to your core. And I'll be real, I was shocked and I was shattered, even though Garrison wasn't my family, even though I never met him. The loss of life at such a young age, in such circumstances, is devastating no matter what. But because we've watched these kids grow up on screen, because we've seen their struggles play out in front of us, it cut deeper. And for me, and maybe for a lot of you, it hit especially hard with Janelle's boys. Gabe, Garrison, Hunter, they were the underdogs in so many ways. They weren't the favorites. They weren't treated with the same warmth. They were often criticized, sidelined, and dismissed. And as viewers, we instinctively rooted for them. We wanted to shield them. So when tragedy struck, it didn't just feel like a loss. It felt like injustice layered on top of heartbreak. And that's why tonight was so emotional. It wasn't just the family's pain, it was our pain too. But let me be clear, tonight isn't about pointing fingers. It isn't about laying blame. Not for me, anyway. This isn't the night for that. Tonight is about remembering Garrison, about honoring how the family processed it, and about understanding why this episode left such a scar on all of us. Do you remember where you were when the news first broke? Because I do. I'll never forget it. It was an ordinary afternoon, nothing dramatic, just me scrolling through my phone, checking emails, maybe flipping through social media. And then, bang. The notification lit up my screen. Breaking news. Garrison Brown, son of Janelle and Kody, dead at 25. I froze. My blood went cold. For a few seconds, I just stared at it, trying to make sense of the words. And then, before I could even process it, the world seemed to erupt. Fans rushed online, live streams started, social media exploded, and suddenly this tragic story wasn't just a headline, it was the reality none of us could ignore. And here we are, over a year later, being forced to relive it through the eyes of the family. That's what made tonight so heavy. We weren't just remembering what happened, we were watching the people closest to him break down on camera, reliving their own trauma. The episode opened in a chilling way. Mary was filming a couch confessional when her phone buzzed. Kody was calling. She ignored it at first, brushing it off, thinking it couldn't be that urgent. But then he called again. This time she picked up, and you could see it. Her face changed instantly. Shock, confusion, the kind of expression that only comes when you hear words you can't process. That was the moment everything shifted. From there, the story unfolded piece by piece. We learned how the family members found out, how they reacted, and how the tragedy rippled through every corner of their lives. And honestly, what made this episode so raw was how it centered not just on the event, but on the emotions. The tears, the breakdowns, the phone calls no one ever wants to receive. And perhaps the hardest detail of all, Gabe. He was the one who found his brother. He was the one who had to make that call to Janelle. Imagine the trauma of not only discovering your sibling, your brother you grew up with, lifeless in his room, but then immediately being forced to pick up the phone and tell your mother. That's not just heartbreak, that's trauma on top of trauma. That's a wound that doesn't heal easily, if ever. Janelle later explained that she had been in touch with Garrison all day. He had been depressed, drinking again, something she said started during COVID, even though he never liked alcohol. She had been texting with him, worried but still hopeful. And then, the texts stopped. Silence. Hours later, the silence was broken by Gabe's call. "Mom, he's gone." Think about that for a second. The layers of pain here are impossible to count. Gabe carrying the trauma of discovery. Janelle blindsided by a phone call that ripped her world apart. And then the ripple effect. Maddie, Hunter, Logan, Christine, Mary, all pulled into a nightmare that no one was prepared for. That was part 1 of the episode, and already the grief was overwhelming. And yet, there was more to come. Kody's reaction, Christine's collapse, and the raw interviews that followed. But before we go there, let's just pause and acknowledge how powerful and devastating this first half truly was. Mary described the moment as surreal. 1 second she was filming, trying to stay composed in front of the cameras, and the next she was walking out of the set with her entire world shaken. She drove straight to Kody and Robin's house, not even knowing what she was going to say or do when she got there. And the very first thing she saw was Gwendolyn waiting outside. Gwen rushed to her, wrapped her arms around her, and the two of them just held on to each other. No words, just tears. Sometimes there's nothing left to say, only the weight of grief pressing down. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy. Robin's children were there, Kody was pacing, and Mary could only manage one thing, to pick up the phone and call Janelle. She told her, "Listen, I know you're driving down. I'm grabbing food and I'll meet you there." She didn't have a plan, she didn't have answers, she just knew she had to do something. In times like this, sometimes presence is the only comfort you can offer. Then came Robin's side of the story. She said she had been in her room, working quietly, when Kody walked in. He looked dazed, almost disconnected. He was on the phone, fumbling through his words, his face pale. Robin asked him what was happening, and she realized instantly that something was terribly wrong. Kody broke down in front of her. His words shattered the silence. "It's Garrison." At that moment, Robin said she couldn't process it. She had to register the shock for herself before even beginning to console him. And she admitted Kody completely fell apart. Fans pointed out something important here. Ladybird commented, "I'm glad Gwen felt comfortable enough to go and be comforted by her dad." And it's true. Whatever we think of Kody, in that moment Gwen needed him and he was there for her. Sometimes grief breaks down walls that seemed impossible to move before. But the most heartbreaking perspective came from Janelle. She admitted openly that Garrison had been fighting battles with anxiety and depression for a long time. Her exact words, "It became an animal we couldn't get a hold of." That statement stopped me in my tracks. She didn't say he couldn't control it. She said we. That tiny word, "we," spoke volumes. It showed that she had been in the fight alongside him, doing everything she possibly could. And she made it clear, "I know we did everything. I know we did all that we could." For a mother to carry that burden, to wrestle with those questions, and still stand strong enough to say she had no regrets, that takes courage beyond words. The live chat exploded with emotion. Mima shared that she lost her husband in the same way just months before, and she didn't even know if she could watch the episode. And suddenly, this wasn't just a television recap. It became a community grief circle. People were comforting Mima, sharing their own heartbreak, admitting their own tears. And that's what makes this episode different from any other. This wasn't just about their loss. It triggered our memories, our scars, our grief. And maybe that's why it's so heavy. We never met Garrison personally, but we felt like we knew him. We watched him grow up on our screens. We saw his humor, his loyalty to his siblings, his love for his family, even when things weren't perfect. We related to him, and now losing him feels like losing someone from our own extended family. From Kody's perspective, the pain carried a different weight. He admitted he was stunned, completely lost, devastated that he never got to say goodbye. And here's where things turn even darker, because when you have a strained relationship with someone and that person passes away suddenly, the grief is doubled. You're not just mourning their life, you're haunted by everything left unsaid. All the apologies you never made, the reconciliations you never reached, the hugs you never gave. Kody said it himself. He thought there would be more time. But there wasn't. And in this tragedy, for once, Kody and Janelle stood as equals. No fighting, no bitterness. Just parents united in their loss, determined to bring their son home. They made the decision together. Garrison would be cremated, and his ashes would be buried in Wyoming. That land held his ancestors, his roots, and most importantly, his peace. Janelle said she wanted him to rest in a place that he loved, and Kody agreed. For all their past differences, in this one heartbreaking decision, they stood as a family again. Kody described the journey of bringing his son's ashes home as a pilgrimage. He said, "I just want to take my boy home and put him in the ground." He saw it as their last trip together, a final journey where, even in death, father and son would travel side by side. It was raw, it was heavy, and it was perhaps the most human we've ever seen him. And then silence. That's how the episode ended. No dramatic previews, no music, just blackness. And strangely, that silence said more than any words ever could. It was haunting, but it was right. Maddie's words stuck with me most. There are a few moments in your life that alter your brain chemistry, and this was one of them. Think about that. Those life-changing seconds where you hear words that split your world in two. One moment you're living in your old reality, and the next, everything you thought you knew is gone forever. Maddie put it into words perfectly. And that's why this episode is not just a recap. It's a collective experience of grief, shock, and love. By the end, each family member had honored Garrison in their own way. Gabe spoke through tears about how amazing his brother was. Others shared memories, little glimpses of who he truly was. And through all of it, one truth remained. Garrison was loved. And even though he's gone, his story will echo far beyond this family, touching everyone who has ever walked through their own storm of loss. The final part of the episode shifted from shock to remembrance. Gabe, through tears, described Garrison in a way that left everyone speechless. He said, "Garrison always made people in the room feel comfortable. He went out of his way to do it. And that's the best measure of a gentleman." And you know what? He was right. That line felt like the truest summary of who Garrison was at his core: kind, thoughtful, and selfless. Everyone else echoed the same sentiments. They remembered his humor, his loyalty, his warmth, and his ability to bring light even in dark situations. For a while, the episode felt like a memorial service, family and fans alike just sharing laughter through tears, replaying happy memories, and reminding the world that Garrison wasn't just a statistic, not just a storyline. He was a good person. He was loved. But Janelle, oh Janelle, this woman is strong beyond words, yet even she couldn't mask the crushing weight of her grief. At one point, her sister came to visit. Janelle was in the kitchen, trying to keep herself busy, stirring something in a mixing bowl, forcing a smile. She kept insisting, "I'm good, I'm okay." But then slowly, her voice cracked. The tears came. She put the spoon down, wiped her eyes, and whispered, "Give me a minute. Just give me a minute so I don't cry." It was such a raw, human moment, watching a mother hold herself together for everyone else, even when her own heart was shattered. The grief, of course, stretched far beyond Janelle. Fans in the chat shared how the episode reopened their own wounds. Sharon shared the pain of losing her own brother suddenly. Mima admitted she wasn't even sure if she could watch the episode, the trauma was too close. And in that moment, the Sister Wives community became something more. It became a space of collective mourning. People comforted each other, shared condolences, and poured out love. It wasn't just a recap anymore, it was therapy. And then came Kody's reflection. He admitted how haunting it feels when an estranged relationship ends with sudden death. No closure, no second chances, no words left to fix the past, just silence. He confessed he thought he had more time, and now he's left replaying every missed opportunity. That kind of grief is brutal, it eats away at you. But for once, Kody and Janelle set aside every difference and stood together as parents. United, silent, determined. Together, they made the decision no parent should ever have to make. They cremated their son, and then they carried him home to Wyoming. Kody called it a pilgrimage, his last journey with his boy. Holding his ashes, he said, "I just want to take my boy home and put him in the ground." That one sentence was heavier than any dramatic fight we've ever seen on the show. This wasn't television anymore. This was life and death, love and grief in its purest form. The episode ended not with a trailer for what's next, but with silence. The screen faded to black. No music, no sound, just emptiness. And that silence screamed louder than anything TLC could have scripted. It left us sitting in our own emotions, grappling with the same void the family now carries every day. Maddie's words cut the deepest. She said, "There are few moments in your life that alter your brain chemistry. This was one of them. Think about that. The instant you hear those words, that someone you love is gone, you're split in two. Your life before and your life after. Nothing will ever be the same again." That's exactly what this moment was for the Brown family, and for fans who have followed them for over a decade. And then, as if the universe wanted us to hold on to one last piece of Garrison, we learned about his cats. Family members stepped up to care for them. Logan took two, Aspen adopted the other. Even in his absence, his love for animals, his compassion, his gentle spirit, those pieces of him still live on. As the episode drew to a close, one truth became undeniable. This tragedy isn't just about Garrison's death. It's a wake-up call, a reminder about mental health, about checking in on the people we love, about asking the hard questions and listening deeply to the answers. Because sometimes the people who seem fine are the ones carrying the heaviest battles. And that's the message this episode left us with. You're not alone. If you've lost someone, if you're grieving, if you're struggling in silence, please reach out, talk, share. Don't carry it alone. Because Garrison's story, as heartbreaking as it is, also teaches us that love, awareness, and connection can make a difference. So tonight we didn't just watch an episode. We shared a memorial. We remembered Garrison together. We honored him. And we reminded ourselves that grief, though heavy, is lighter when carried as a community. And with that, the screen went dark. But his memory? That remains bright, always. That remains bright, always.